Long before the Mirror Group in the United Kingdom established the Daily Graphic in the 1950s to popularize the art of reading newspapers in the then Gold Coast, there was this maize food item wrapped in green leaves. It was making the rounds in most towns and villages much earlier than the arrival of the daily newspaper. But surprisingly, this maize food item has come to be known as graphic, just like the daily newspaper. And in Ghana, one town is known when it comes to preparing this food item. And this town is Osino. But how did all this come about?
Osino is a town in the eastern region of Ghana. It is located along the Accra-Kumasi stretch, flanked by the Etiwa forest. To know the history of one of the country's most popular foods that has kept the name of Osino on the lips of many, I was directed to 35-year-old Stella Japoma. Stella was born at Osino and has been in the graphic business for the past 16 years.
Page no son no first page or second or as I third page.
It is called graphic because when it is untied, there is a first page, second page, and then a third page when you finally get to the food. And this tastes really good, as though reading the best of news for the day in the daily newspaper. The kenke is well known and attracts a lot of patronage. We heal you naturally anytime you eat the food because of the leaves wrapped around it, which is medicinal.
Is that
to say, the food had no name until the coming into being of the Daily Graphic? This is the question I posed to her in the Akan language.
Graphic.
Graphic.
I don't know
It had a name. It was called sweet kenke because of the sugar element in it. But for now, the name has changed to graphic due to the number of pages you come across after unwrapping it.
Now, when the first, second, third, no better any dairy graphic. Now, when it's not graphic.
She added that as the newspaper is published and released daily, so is the food prepared and sold daily. Not only are the two commodities identified with the time of delivery, it was also established that just as the reader needed to open the newspaper unfolded to be able to read, so does the customer also have to unwrap the maize meal to eat. The main difference is that while graphic is published in Accra, the traditional headquarters for the maize meal was and still is Osino. She explains why Osino graphic is unique.
The
entire process is done in a very congenial atmosphere. We only mix our food with sugar that makes it extremely tasty. Some people claim there is this thing called dede. We don't use it because it is not good. Also, when the food is boiled together with the leaves, the aroma of the leaves mixes with it. This protects one from various ailments when eating.
A 32-year-old Ya Betty is a mother of 3. She also took up the trade some 9 years back when her husband went abroad in search of greener pastures. She tells me this business is what sustains the family. She is a part of the women's group with sales during the weekend.
Business these days is bad, so after selling on Saturdays and Sundays in Osino, I travel to Accra during the week to sell to avoid being idle.
Hanimpo na we on a Saturday and a Sunday no. A day utumi eton ade be ya he.
Okay, say edwane ye di a day metimi ton ade be 1 million.
I am able to make sales of 100 Ghana cedis a day. So, for 2 days, I make 200 cedis. That is, if the market is good. I pay my debt and the rest serves as feeding money for myself and children.
There are do's and don'ts when it comes to preparing the maize meal. First, it must not come into contact with cooking oil, soap, orange, or animal excreta.
Brosam pana ye no ye no. Say ye no na se fidiera ne di kan yam sa akwele no a brosam na ye no ye na no ya me doko na ebese no. De atusumienu no so bi ho no ma ese ye don na ansa no don na anu 2 days.
The fact is, if a corn miller grinds corn not soaked in water before attending to yours, the distraction starts from there. If your maize is soaked in water for 2 days instead of 3 days, you are also in trouble. You are also prohibited from selling the food to customers after day 3 due to the leaves that come into contact with sugar, which makes it slimy and dangerous for human consumption. Also, traders are advised to desist from inviting unskilled persons to help in the preparation process because when it is not tightened, the entire thing becomes watery.
So nipa no so ni mu ya untimi mfranse bra beboa me. Ena ne bono nso kura no. Wuti aduane to ahaban ne so a as wo mo awia ase achim no wanchim ne yie. Na so nipa no nim se de achim no na so okofre a eno sa doko no be no na nsuo ekom. To nipa no be sane sa doko no be onse na ase na epeche wo se metodoko no enye. Obi o wa na ase emo ano na onimu moa. Tinema e basa.
Some customers also complain that the Osino graphic has lost some of its quality and taste. What then has changed?
Say ni asama na sesa no. Obi wo ho no mo a ebi a madam fo no obeto sema ya obesra me 2 days ebi a maye no ono nso kwa no no nso akoye bi.
Sometimes we have friends who visit and watch us prepare but are unable to do it well. At other times, the problem is from the onset when you are to deeply immerse the maize into water for 3 days.
Ememu ye denti say Osino graphic no e na fe nso ne say wo ka ni nyina na say wo anya emo ni bia bema asom ama hoden no agina mu no a na ama no agene ho na ama na say esan entete na ye afi hu ni nti ama aya ahomete nti say wonnimu ye pa na say wo ya ebese anase.
When you fail to do that, the whole thing spoils. Again, if you don't leave equal amounts of the corn dough for mixing, it goes to affect your work. Some of our colleagues who have lived in Accra for long and have taken to the trade tend to refrigerate leftovers, and this obviously changes the taste. Sometimes, my customers in Accra inquire whether I bring the food from Osino daily to sell before they buy.
Timi say baby a me chin ni say no me won krofo a omo bisa me nkran he ya na wo ye na na say wo kofa wo Osino ba me suo me de bia me kofa wo Osino ene de ba nti yes atem bia no ahoden ewom.
Speaking in the Akan language, I sought to find out why they revere the trade and fail to teach others.
Menya ntie say yenchire ayeti say esuma de bia mabɔ ho ban ama ache adane bibi te say tradition bi enti yenchire because eno no na eye mo adwuma titiriwa se mo kyire a eno nso se bɔ mo anache say ma wo krom ha no enya adwuma titiriw bia enye but se a mo manum nso entre ye no den na mo be ya afa ho na den emu apoten na mo hwehwe kwan se obi a wo hwe mo anaso obi otie mo anaso obi a obetumi aboa mo adwuma ma etumpo ode beboa ma adwuma yi akonkan
yo se no ye de ye hia moa ye adwuma no ha sei ne woni ti ni nyina wa ha sa wo se wo post no graphic pad ya Osino ha ene.
For us, we really need help because Osino is the headquarters for the production of graphic. We are pleading with authorities as well as savings and loans companies to come to our aid to enable us get startup capital to buy the sugar, maize and leaves in large quantities, as most of the items we use are given to us on credit. This will enable all who want to engage in this business to buy from us for retailing because the distance between Accra and Osino is quite close.
The raw material for the oceanographic is corn or maize. It is crushed into pieces and kept in a sack. A small amount is then soaked in water for 3 days. And this is River Ekusu, the only source of drinking water in the area. This is where the corn or maize is washed. Here, I get to meet Rebekah and Awuah. One is prohibited from stepping in the river with a footwear. I wondered why they cannot just fetch the water home to wash the maize or corn. As I posed the question, the women were quick to say that it had been the norm since time immemorial, and again, the leftover as well as particles from the maize drop in the river, and this feeds the river god and its babies.
Maize contains a lot of chaff. That is why we come to River Ekusu to wash it clean. If you don't do that, it becomes difficult getting rid of the chaff. Out of this job, we get our daily bread and pay our children's school fees. Some have even built houses with the money made from the business.
From here, we set off to the corn mill. Amongst the numerous milling points in the town, many of the sellers, including Rebekah and Awuah, prefer this joint, manned by 57-year-old Miyuna Sowu. Mr. Sowu started this business some 35 years ago at Bonso, also in the eastern region. He had to relocate to Osino due to the prospects of the expansion of his business. Since arriving here, Mr. Sowu has played an important role in the oceanographic business. I tried to find out why everybody in the town preferred his joint and whether the business was doing well.
My machine also grinds very well, so my customers keep increasing by day. Anytime I'm not around, the women complain a lot. The only challenge now is the load shedding and the continuous power outages. I am from a nearby town but work here, so when there is light off, I can sleep here the whole day without doing anything. But Fridays are market days for these women and business booms on this day, so they tend to grind a lot on Fridays.
Every product has its own unique style of packaging. For the oceanographic, 2 green leaves, kafa and arom are used for the packaging.
Yes, indeed. When it comes to the preparation of the oceanographic, you cannot go without the green leaves, popularly known as arom. I'm here with a Nimwa who is going to actually explain to us where they get these leaves from and how they manage to wrap the food item or the maize food item with these leaves.
People bring these leaves, especially the arom, from neighboring towns for us to buy. But the kafa leaves is gotten from this town. It costs 20 pesos per bundle.
She demonstrates how the leaves are put together to wrap the food and by tying it with sibre, which looks like a thread.
Asinya tiedwan atoso na atiwi a wamoa ni se na wi a de sibre no achichiri ni se wa mi asie yen so ensuo be kwa asie ti se na ba chichiri ya no abọ ne po e wa ano no
See, isn't this beautiful? I don't know whether it's a cone or something, I don't know, but this is how they arrive at tying the Osino graphic. And I don't know, but I guess there will be a medicinal value in this leaf. But let me find out from Enimwa again whether this leaf has something to do, whether it is poisonous or it isn't poisonous at all. Enimwa, ahabaino,
Those who patronize this food dislike it being wrapped in polythene. That is why we still hold on to our age-old tradition of wrapping it in leaves. These leaves are not harmful, but they are very hygienic and have medicinal value. It cures malaria when you eat the food, and especially when you wash down with the drained water from the leaves after cooking the food.
It will interest you to know that almost every woman in this community is engaged in this trade either full-time or part-time. The numbers are huge, so women in the trade are in groups and have specified days to sell. Saturdays and Sundays are reserved for students as well as people in other vocations but who engage in the business on a part-time basis. There is division of labor when it comes to the preparation. Margaret Otima is noted for firing the condo. At this very point, sellers of Osino graphic really have to hire elderly women like this woman to actually prepare the condo for them by putting it on this fire. And as you can see, it is not quite easy. It's quite uneasy here because the smoke is getting into my eyes. But I would find out from this woman how long she has been in the business and how well it is for her. And Mr. Impendo do ahin wa ye ejuma we.
Ipacho ma ejuma ya chapa. Ma be ye 5 years ni.
Na man penyimfo nko an e ma mo ye moka eduane na ma
Ipacho
omo moto na.
Ipacho de be nyina na enimu ye nti wa wonu yo no. Wo na obeye ama wo.
Na ne chese ejuma ni kram ana se de.
Sisi aye ya de no do ye dokro ne ya ne dia ne de nyama nyina beba. Na me ma di mi nsuo mi gya. Ene ma ho de na me suma aka na ma kyekira ma. Na ma no ama.
Okay, so this woman has really confirmed what I was telling you. You can see there are even tears dropping from my eyes. The smoke is unbearable here. But she tells me that when they bring the things to them, she would have to use her own firewood, her own utensils. So this comes at a cost. And they do this daily. So you can imagine that she's really making a lot out of this business. So if you are not a lazy person, then obviously you would get something to do daily in this town called Osino, because elderly women, just as this woman has confirmed, stir the condo for the sellers every day, and this comes at a cost.
Otima says she has to eat well before setting out to do the work, as it requires a lot of energy and it is very time consuming. Otima sits for hours to wrap the food, but first she ensures she has everything needed for her work close by.
So I'm details in
but I was saying, was on can. What is the way I story next in a style? What I say? So I'm getting footage.
I was seated next to her, observing with keen interest her every move. Access to credit to expand their business is a challenge, since the traders do not belong to any association and lack the collateral needed to secure a loan from the banks. I asked to speak to the Queen Mother of the town, but first, as custom demands, I was led to the compound of Madame Ajua Ketwa, the linguist or spokesperson for the Queen Mother, known in Akan as Nana Hima Chiaming. She was busily working, but had to stop halfway to seek clearance from the Queen Mother. Alright, so having been taught the processes involved in preparing the ever popular Osino graphic, which is known in Ghana here, I happened to meet the newly installed Queen Mother of Osino, who is in the person of Oba Penyin Adoma Ajimain III. I will be trying to quiz out something from her to know what particularly she has for women in this locality. I'm also told that there was a committee of women who were to oversee that things pertaining to the scenographic falls in place. But as I speak to you, it seems not to be working. So Nana Hima will also be telling us what her plans are to ensure that that committee really works.
Me pese e ma na omoton dokon no me boabo mu nyina no na me hwe se dokon no e be te se kan no.
I intend bringing the women together once more to ensure that the tasty Osino graphic, as many know it back then, takes its form again or requires money.
They say sika semo no enye nti ma yese makofa susufo bi aba na omo na omo abe yesusu kakra be 5 months no na omo am loan.
I intend inviting microfinance firms to help them access funds. The town is synonymous to the food, so if one eats it and it's not that tasty, it goes to tarnish the image of the town.
Now, omo maame no no aye dokono. Na dokono so mama mani akoho. If you say dokono eda ye kro dua no, you say wona mo nkran.
I'll take it upon myself and go around to ensure that it is done well. Students involved in the trade will also be banned to enable them concentrate on their education, for their mothers to raise the bar again for the oceanography. I used to sell some because my mother was engaged in it as well. Sometimes the problem is encountered at the grinding stage. The trade is dear to my heart, so I'll go at all lengths to help the traders, because when you mention Osino, graphic is what comes next.
Na no ya nika rano obehwe se obeyama no ansa no afiri ho dokone de edamakoma so pa se dokone hwe na dokone eyeye na ma omo so nyafa so ho amtimi ni hwe omoma ti dokone de ade edamekoma so se edamekuro dua no.
As a queen and mother of the area, she tells me she was not only installed for women, she also outlined her plans for men in the town.
Ekuro dua nso yetu gold room. My yes, no so me hu openina o baby too good no. Yura atasame. My yes, me pese me hu no fam rantie na o krodue mu no.
This is a mining town, so I plan seeing the owners of the mine to engage the young men. I will talk to the DCE, the MP and minister to ensure majority of the men are taken aboard the National Youth Employment, so that they can also make meaningful contributions to the society. There are several banks in this town. It can also absorb most of the unemployed graduates in the town. I intend to seek assistance from town folks, both home and abroad, to help people take up a vocation and also assist needy but brilliant students enter into school.
Na oni oboafo no so no me pese me de to omo akwantuom ene yenuan mo ama no ye de to omanim so omo moa wom na ono pese okọ school no so ye timidi ni ko hye school mu na ye ne omo awofo no so kasa na ye bo omo kakran no so etimi wie school ni bi obo o na ni gi school so beko na so oni oboafo.
Passengers in most vehicles we stop over at Osino have the food items thrust at them till today. Over time, the trade in the oceanographic has seen a drop and the market for sure is not as before. I engaged some of the sellers in a chat.
You really
make a lot of profit when sales are high, but very dangerous selling by the roadside. It's only God who protects us. In fact, now business is not going well.
They say so the adwano so de enye emu odin de bi wo ho aye besan de bi wo ho nso aye ensa eno an ye de bibia ye de hwe ya masku.
The money generated out of this business is what pays the fees of our wards in senior high school. We have improved the taste, so we urge customers who ply this wood to stop over and buy from us. Now, market is low. We were able to make a lot of sales during the festive period, but this has changed completely. On a good day, I make sales of 80 Ghana cedis, but on a bad day, I make sales of 20 Ghana cedis.
There is no definite market center where one can buy oceanographic except along this highway. And your guess is as good as mine.
So until steps are taken to get a safer place for these traders, they tell me they will continue to be here as their major customers are passengers who ply this route every now and then. Osino has carved a niche for itself when it comes to this maize meal. Just as the Gans have the Gan Kenke, the Fantis have the Fanti Kenke, and Akosombo has their Bolo, Ekwapims with their Nyoma, and so on and so forth. For now, all I can do is just to take a bite. Very nice. Rebekah Awuah, Osino, Achimebwakwa.